So the reason that we are gathered here this evening, and we beautifully articulated every speaker that is going to be coming up, has, I'm sure, absolutely beautiful things to say about being gathered here today. Former president of the Black Management Forum, the late George Negota. If you look at the leadership and the kind of person that he was leadership, and his love for education, his love for role, the very key role that he was able to play in politics, and as an entrepreneur in law, and that is what we're going to be hearing this evening. And I would like to welcome first on the stage, BMF Limpopo chairperson, Mr. Mpongwe, to come through the front and to welcome us to the stage. Please, round of applause for him to come to the stage.
Program Director, Ms. Paul Mashita. She works at Capricorn FM. One of the important shows there, Going Black. So she's based here, and she's going to be a member of BMF. Program Director, allow me to convey a special greetings to the Negota family who are present today. We're very excited that they are giving the opportunity to us. Number one, we should be able to celebrate such a giant. Allowed us. And it was and we're very excited about that.
I would like to take this opportunity to welcome our guests who are here in the midst. Our Deputy President, thank you very much. Newly elected, very proud, very super intelligent. I can say a lot about her, but you just hear when she speaks. Can I just leave that so that she can be able to speak? But welcome, ma'am. Let me take this opportunity as well to welcome our company secretaries here. Mr. Chaka is also here. He's a board member in the BMF, is also a board member in the BMFI. So I would really take that opportunity to thank him for being here. Let me take this opportunity to thank our giant, our former president, Mr. Bheki Sibiya, for taking your opportunity. He's a very busy. I don't know whether people have the programs with them. Were you able to go through the profile a little bit? The profile should tell you a lot about him and his schedule for him to give us time to come and become a guest speaker. Thank you very much, sir, for honoring us. I cannot leave my PC member here. My secretary is the engine. He knows I can't do anything else. Mr. Murama is also here. And my deputy, which we normally say, don't kill us, the MOI issues. We are saying in we don't have a co-chair, so we chair together. So our deputy here, Ms. Thank you very much. Treasurer is not now, Mr. Rama. But let me take this opportunity also to welcome my branch leaders. Dr. Gateko, who is the chairperson of Ulukani branch, is here. Thank you very much for gracing us with your team that is also here. The chairperson of Bani is here, Mr. Desmond is also here. Thank you very much for here. The branch is also here as well. And the other leaders are also here. Thank you very much for gracing us tonight. I want to take this because I wanted to do it deliberately. The University of Limpopo is here. And they came in numbers. So we've got a director of the School of DSL is also here. Thank you very much for coming here. And we also have the programs, the head of program of MPA is also here. the head of program of MDev is here, the head of programs of MPA is here, and the staff and the professors. So here, only professors sit this side. So we are not professors and doctors sit the other side. Or I've got two doctors here. You must come the other side. Today marks the third annual Negota lecture, and we are extremely excited to be here in this evening. Some of us were fortunate enough to experience Mr. Negota, and he is still, while we were still here. And in the same breath, there are a lot of us who did not experience him. We would only read about his good deeds and feel like we know him better personally. Events like this are crucial to later group because we're getting an experience, our giant hero, to those who have experienced him. This is the closest experience that you can know about George Negota. Lots of speakers are going to come and talk about him. And Mr. Bheki was asking a very crucial question. I'm going to let you ask it when he comes forward. To say, how come we have been honored here in Limpopo? How come as the University of Limpopo we have been honored such a giant? But I guess he'll be able to elaborate further. It's just that was a deliberate move to invite you Limpopo. I didn't invite you for you to eat. It was a deliberate move. But the whole issue about the whole situation was the issue that he's our giant that we needed to celebrate. Today, as the third annual lecture in Limpopo, we are very excited. We are very excited because we know the lessons that we are going to learn about him. They can still be able to apply today. He has a very good business acumen, and not just a very good business acumen, a very good ethical business acumen. Now I'm going to repeat, a very good ethical business acumen. Today we've got business people that do not care about the ethics. And our society is simply because of ethics we lack. It is now high time the BMF to be able to bring back the fiber of George Negota. That it is okay as a leader to be ethical. It is still okay as a leader that you can still be a millionaire without corruption. That is what BMF stands for. We don't stand for anything else. We stand for leaders, business people who are very, very ethical. That's what we stand for. And we're supposed to be the one that assist our local province here. We're supposed to be the one that are going to be able to contribute in terms of assisting them. They need us. One thing TGSL that you need to know about BMF is that it is an organization of the intellects. People who are learned. That is why we invited you. And one thing that Mr. Sibiya that you also understand that they also told me, especially my supervisor, Dr. Rango, said to me, they want to contribute the members of the BMF. They want to contribute the research side. So I think we should take an advantage of that to utilize them to make an impact in our own process and also in the country as large. So ladies and gentlemen, with these few words, we are realizing that the unemployment rate is rising to a point that it is so alarming. 34.9 in the third quarter. That should worry us. From the second quarter, it has moved 0.5, and that should really worry us. Let me tell you and put it in context. When lots of people do not work, they are a threat to those who are working. So if you think this is just something because you're working, then you must just know next time you find an intruder in your house, simply because they are. So it is high time that we should take it as a personal conviction that we must go out and contribute to make sure that we eradicate this unemployment. Of course, we are aware as BMF that we don't just talk things on the air. There are certain things that need to be happening in the right way and that are well researched. But what we know is that we need to really push the issue of information. I'm very glad that the BMF has a vision on it, where they've got an Insika fund. The Insika fund, primarily when we created it, was the issue that you can see that lots of business people and lot of small businesses are able to get finance. And some of the restrictions, some of the red tapes, when they go to institutions of funding, they can't be able to be funded. So BMF created that for the purpose that we need to be able to push the entrepreneurs. When we push the entrepreneurs who are going to build proper businesses, not talking entrepreneurship, right? We're talking proper businesses that are going to be able to employ the same people to contribute directly. We will start by making sure we go and contribute in our province to contribute on the policy issues. That's what we need to do as BMF in Limpopo and in general. I would like to take this opportunity. There's a certain topic that raises me a problem as the chairperson of Limpopo. The issue of gender-based violence is the by the way issue. In most cases, people don't want to talk about in rooms like this. But that thing is very dangerous because people are experiencing it in the workplace. And that's where we spend most of our time in. People are experiencing it at home. The statistic was alarming last time, where they said more than 600 kids who are between ages 9 and what, if I don't remember, were pregnant. That should be worrisome. And as BMF, we must contribute directly in that. We are not supposed to shy away from topics like that, and we should be able to champion them so that we can be able to bring the proper, great society that we want. Ladies and gentlemen, with my last words, I would like to take this opportunity to welcome you all in the third George Negota annual lecture. Thank you very much.
Thank you so much. Thank you so much, Mr. Another applause for him, please. Thank you. I think he did a great job in setting the tone for the lecture. And I like that because not only for for this gathering, but also and I'm not saying this as a rhetoric, just to say in your midst, as someone who is in the media. Already as I'm listening to just the welcome, I'm hearing content. I'm like, okay, there's so much to hold these guys accountable for. This is where I'm sitting. I'm like, this is great content. Who am I calling on Monday? And so, what are you doing in your province? So I hear about the Untitled program. Really? How many entrepreneurs? Where are they? Can you point me in their direction? So anyway, this is not to try to scare anyone from sharing anything in the field that you'll be receiving a call or anything on Monday. But I think it's such a great talk that July was Moral Regeneration Month in the country. And not many people know that July is Moral Regeneration Month. And I think all the pointers that Mr. raised this evening, they really question where we are in our morality as a country. And it's a very difficult conversation to have, or question to ask, because many people tie morality with religion and those kind of things. But it really goes down to the whole fabric of what we are as a country, what we stand for, how we do business, how we lead organizations, how we manage people. And if we are found wanting when it comes to our morals as people, then I shudder when I think about what is going to happen as we continue to build. We will continue experiencing issues like gender-based violence. What Mr. was able to raise this evening. And the example that he gave when he talked about those young girls who are pregnant, what's scary is some of those girls, it's not just a matter of they were engaged in these sexual relations. Some of them were coerced, some of them were raped. Some of them were manipulated. Very young girls who we are dealing with as a country. So those are some of the questions that continue to come, and especially that at this moment we may not have the answer. But I'm glad to hear that at BMF, there are programs that can start to nudge at some of these issues that are a problem in the country. So that hashtag that you're using this evening, hashtag, let me just check if I'm getting it right. Oh, it was up there. The George Negota lecture. So make sure that you use that hashtag. You're going to be putting anything up on social media. As we are continuing with the program, I'd like to call onto the stage the BMF President, Esther to Negota. Round of applause, please, as she comes to the stage. Thank you.
Thank you. Our most special guest for this evening, the Negota family, former President Bheki Sibiya, Provincial Chairperson Mr. Mbonze, Provincial Committee of the Limpopo Province, Director of the TTSL University of Limpopo, HOD of the MBA program at the University of Limpopo, HODs of the MPA and MDiv program at the University of Limpopo. Thank you for joining us this evening. BMF Company Secretary Mr. Chaka, Acting Managing Director Mr. Philip Bakahutela. I really deserve a round of applause. And all our staff members at the BMF office who are absolutely wonderful, who tirelessly make sure that these events go as smoothly as possible. Thank you, guys. Good evening, ladies and gentlemen, and welcome to the third annual George Negota lecture. My name is Esther Negota, Deputy President of BMF. I'd like to say thank you very much for honoring our invitation to honor once again our former President, Mr. George Negota. Borrowing from the words of Dr. Ruel Khoza in his tribute to President Negota, a man who had vision, a man who was known for what he stood for, a man who was a profoundly moral being, a man with integrity, a man who was able and competent, a man who led a renaissance, a man who took responsibility for his actions, a man who we all aspire to emulate. That is the man who gathered in his honor this evening, and it's an absolute honor. To those of us who remain on this earth in the physical realm, I say, South Africa, you are in denial. You focus endlessly on your problems, and yet remain in a funny sort of denial. You form endless task teams. You study endless court judgments. You host seminars, conferences, and summits, yet you remain in denial. For this week, the unemployment rate, as the chairperson of Limpopo mentioned, of 34.9%, with the expanded definition which includes discouraged work seekers at a staggering 46.6%, a skyrocketing petrol price hitting close to 20 rand per litre. Before we found out there was, wait for it, a miscalculation in the I'm still trying to understand the miscalculation in the petrol price. The Omicron variant of COVID-19 and the impending fourth wave are the immediate cases of dismay just for this week. Thankfully, the Negota, who you all know, BMF really doesn't like him, listen to our president, has given us a break from the debilitating blackouts of about 2 weeks ago. But while the issues sometimes change, claims that the country is in deep trouble are becoming routine. Just this week, as I mentioned, the unemployment rate rose to a staggering 46.6% on the expanded definition. The fact is that right now, in South Africa, if you are a young person aged between 16 and 34, 61% of you are unemployed. The reality, colleagues, is that in its current state, this is no country for young people. And yet, we are not trying to implement policies faster. We still have a terrible education and skills development system. We are not making changes to the labor market and encourage companies to hire more people. And our president seems to have gone underground, with the exception of the occasional, my fellow South Africans, on the occasional Sunday evening, to announce COVID restrictions and the extension of the national state of disaster. State of disaster indeed, Mr. President. When my chairperson of Limpopo spoke, I was amazed that he touched on the two issues that I want to touch on this evening. And I thought to myself, they often speak about a BMF type manager or a BMF type leader. And it's often difficult to define and crystallize what is this BMF type manager or BMF type leader. And I thought to myself, the fact that the two issues that he focused on are the exact two issues that I focused on means that the things that keep him and I awake at night are the same things. And that's what makes us BMF type leaders or BMF type managers. On gender-based violence, when the COVID-19 pandemic hit our shores in 2020, and we were all forced into our homes, our shadow pandemic of gender-based violence came into stark focus. 9,000 rapes were reported during the lockdown. GBV cases rose by 500%. And as workplaces began to reopen, the same perpetrators took that violence back into the world of work. In 2020, 30% of women reported unwanted sexual advances in the workplace. 15% of this harassment was verbal, 38% unwanted touching, 42% lustful looks, and 32% messages of a sexual nature. Yet only 15% of women had the courage to report this to HR or to any person in authority. The barriers to reporting these acts of violence are a fear of lost livelihoods, as women need to feed their children. Women are made to sign non-disclosure agreements to silence them, and payouts are made the order of the day. Women are expected to fight the entire system on their own. And as a society, we expect the very same victim, in addition to being violated, humiliated, and traumatized, we expect these same victims to bear the responsibility to change the system. And what makes this worse is that in both a corporate and a home setting, it is often the perpetrator that holds the purse strings. South Africa, you are in denial. On corruption, because I have very little words and eloquence left, I want to read you a poem by Emmanuel Inya Otunwachi. We all talk against it, make wonderful speeches on the necessity to break its yoke and stronghold. Daily we talk of recovered loot, and daily the recovered loot is looted by no other than those who recovered them. And we set kangaroo upon committees to recover and on, while the nation slides further and further down the slope into the abyss of poverty and the masses under the weight of a bogus leadership that eats and grows fat as the masses of the people shrink with starvation. We talk, we decry, we probe, but corruption thrives and fights back because we fight invisible corruption. We never actually fight the corrupt. Instead, the corrupt fight corruption with kid gloves and make it resistant. George Negota Litigation Fund, you are desperately needed to stand up and take your rightful place in this national discourse. We need you in every courtroom and every boardroom. This is your mission to either fulfill or betray. I thank you.
Novoam Bandingo, thank you so very much. A round of applause, please, once again. Thank you, thank you, thank you. I told you that it's going to be thought-provoking. It's like we move from one level to the next. So I don't know if it's a matter of, if we're making notes to some of these things, or if we are just digesting them, processing them, and just, letting them sink in, everything that has been mentioned this evening. But asikho lapho, we keep it moving. We keep on moving, and we are keeping it moving. One request that I have, I understand that there are people who are in this room right now who keep on logging into the Zoom online. So I'm going to ask if you can refrain from doing that because it gives us feedback. So let the ones that are online be online, and we are here. Let us be here and focus here. Thank you for that. So we are moving to the next session of the program, and the big one. This is the keynote that we're going to be getting into right now. And if you thought the welcome, and if you thought what we were able to hear right now, if you are uncomfortable, if you're unsettled where you are, and you're not quite sure what you're going to do with yourself, then I don't know, because I'm expecting fireworks from this point onwards. As I'm telling you who is going to be giving us the lecture address this evening, the chairman of BMF Investment is Mr. Bheki Sibiya, who's the chairman of BMF Investment, Chromecto and Cable Tapes Africa, Win-Win Partners, and Rail Runner South Africa, and non-executive director of Strategic Partners Group. And he holds an MBA from Western Michigan University after having obtained a B.Admin degree at the University of Zululand. And he has extensive leadership experience in both the private and the public sector. Among the companies and organizations, he has headed the Chambers of Mines, PP Cement, Great South Africa, the Wits Business School, Business Unity South Africa. He has also held senior management positions in Transnet, Tongaat Hewlett Sugar, Black Management Forum, of course, and SA Breweries. Also serving as the deputy chairman of the Tiger Brands, as a lead independent non-executive of Pinnacle Holdings, and non-executive director of famous brand Uhuru Energy, Matador Refrigeration, SA Airwaves, Great South Africa, and Eastern Cape Development Corporation. Yeah, Zodara is that tea. There's still more where that came from. No, it's okay. It's okay.
To the program director, and I'm sure we saw her. She is bright, she is beautiful, she is articulate, she is provocative. May we give her a round of applause. So when is your slot? 6 a.m. No, 6 a.m. I must sleep, but 9 a.m. I am awake. If I were a pastor, I would have said it is all said and done, and we do doxology and go home, because of the wonderful speeches which has been given. A round of applause. I find it very interesting that the program director is Mpo, isn't it? And we acknowledge you. And when one looks at, we need to thank the BMF national leadership. Andile Nomlala, he is an apology, and he then ensured that he persuades his deputy, to be here. May we give her a proper round of applause. And then the provincial leadership of BMF, led by Mpo, Umpo, I know him for dressing. He's always immaculately dressed. May we give him a round of applause? So since there are two Mpos, I just thought maybe we need to complete this. For tonight, I too, I am Mpo. So Mpo Sibiya. To the branch leadership led by Dr. Mnisi, may we give him a round of applause? And indeed, I need to join my colleagues in acknowledging Mr. Chaka, who is Ukajeni, a round of applause. And Philip, when he persuaded me, and he really persuaded me hard, and I'm going to talk about that in a moment. Maybe say bonjour. I would want to, as I keep the applause, and say, you know, the leadership of the University of Limpopo, and in all your various capacities, may we give them a round of applause? The question is still coming, and I would want you to keep guessing. And I got a sense, though, that Umpo couldn't quite hold back. It was, I'm not going to ask this question, but you know, there's an issue at some stage when the youngster knows that you have eaten a cookie and the mother comes and he says, you know, Bheki, do you see that I have not told mother that you ate the cookie? And so the cookie has been reported. But then may we leave the last round and we make it really appropriately strong for the family, the Negota family. May we give them a very strong round of applause, please. A serious. Thank you very much. And now and then one has the challenge when you honor somebody and you find that the family is not present as it should. And I can assure you that it is very well represented. And as I saw the younger brother, and I was looking at it again at George's picture, and as I remember him, it was, you know what, the resemblance is high. May we give you a round of applause again? And with the broad family. Colleagues, as I said, honestly, it was the speeches which have already been made. They caused me to say, you know what, I am going to speak because I'm a former president and I have this benefit that in the room, there is nobody who is the former president. That is the only honor that causes me to speak. Were it not for that, I would have not spoken and I would have been irrelevant. May I go to the third Mpo, because they are Mpos. A friend of mine, Mpo Makwana, who hails from this province, he told me that when you are really excited in this province, you need to say, I am so excited, I'm so grateful. If I was a dog, you would see by the wagging of my tail. And like him as well, I'm so excited to be here. If I had a tail, it would be wagging. But you know, I was deprived. Some of us are deprived what we need to have. Thank you very much for the kind invitation. Thank you very much for the kind introduction. And when people ask for the profile, you say, let's give you a short profile. They say, no, it's incomplete. And you say, please don't read it. And some people complain that it is as if you are reading the obituary whilst they are alive. And for me, I want to say as we do, because we are in this level, maybe our kids, most of our kids are going to the private schools. If they don't go to the private schools, they go to Model C schools. And when they ask you, Mommy, Daddy, why are you away, going away? And you say, we're going to this annual lecture. Annual lecture of who? Mr. George Manda, Negota, and where does he live? Well, he passed away. And so why do you do this annual lecture? I'm requesting that you say as you do. This book, it says, finally, brothers and sisters, even though the sisters were not included there. Whatever is true, whatever is honorable, whatever is just, whatever is pure, whatever is lovely, whatever is commendable. If there is anything praiseworthy, think and talk about these things. So we are here to talk about those things which are true, honorable, just, pure, lovely, commendable, and they are praiseworthy about George Negota. And I said my role model, because again, I would probably suspect that I may be one of the few people in the room who had the honor of serving under George Negota as my president. And I'm going to make a few comments, and in some instances, I'm going to personalize them at some stages. I may just probably speak very broadly. But I think for us, I have chosen, as I did, the issue of servant leadership from my role model, Mr. George Negota. And I'm going to cover a little bit about why we need to talk about servant leadership. And as we do that, though, I want to make an apology to you. I made my speech, they made theirs. And when you're in a discussion like this, you find that the overlaps are so much, and they were quoting statistics. It was like, what am I now going to do with my statistics? They are 3% different from his or hers and that kind of thing. But I think we need to look at statistics not as numbers, but let's look at them as they paint the picture, which we need to say we're going to deal with it. Servant leadership. It flows easy from the mouth. However, it is very difficult. But let me just focus specifically on George, and then I'll be general and I will be specific again. We're spoken about, and as Deputy President quoted Dr. Roel Khoza, and on that again, I need to just be saying, sometimes it's very difficult as program director that people invite Roel Khoza. Roel Khoza is a giant in the ilk about George. And then when you have done that, then you invite Bheki, the dwarfs. It's almost to say you want to show the contradiction, but you know what? The dwarfs stand up as well. Even if you can't see them, they do stand up and they speak up, and therefore you understand. He was very morally upright, and he was free of corruption. And he was very ethical in his conduct. He was hardworking. At some stage, you engage with people and you say, do you have 36 hours in a day? When us, we don't even have 24 hours. And he was a philanthropist. Let me link with Roel Khoza as he was speaking in the Power Project, I think last week. And he said, when you do all these things, people wonder, where do you get the time from? And he says, if you are 60, the age where some of us are, and you sleep 8 hours a day, as some of us do, you have been sleeping 20 years. And if you want to do something, you need to just cut down on your sleeping time. And when I look at George, I was wondering, when does he sleep? As we are going to be covering some of the issues. But then let me cover the duplication maybe as I do. Let me cover this issue because I think it's important. Look at this picture. When you look at this picture, the person who says it's 6, does it show? Why do I get the impression that I think I'm doing PowerPoint? Oh, is it? No, kindly help me. I would like to have what is on my screen, on the screen there, please. It is currently not. It's not. It's not. The 6 and 9, please. And I had pleaded with this issue for about a week, because when it happens, I blush, and when I blush, I get purple. And when I get purple, those who are wearing purple blush more. But anyway, let me paint the picture. The 6 or a number is drawn down. For somebody who looks at it and says, it is a 6. And I am convinced it is a 6, and they are correct, it is a 6. And there's somebody who's standing in the opposite direction, he sees a 9, and he insists it is a 9. And then you find them screaming at each other about the number. Why would I link it with George? Let me thank you. Let me link it with George, because at some stage, George had this uncanny ability of seeing both a 6 and a 9 when people are shouting at the number and shouting with one another. The year is 1986. I was alive? Yes. And I was in BMF 1986. We have the AGM, and George is the fourth president of BMF. It's Eric Mafuna, it's Martin Sibiya, it is Don Ngube, and then it is George. George, in the years 84, 85, 86, visited Durban, and he facilitated the branch of BMF is formed in Durban. Visited Port Elizabeth or Gqeberha, and he ensured that the branch of BMF is formed. And I was in Gqeberha at that time, visited Cape Town and ensured the branch of BMF is formed at that area. And we always debate, and we can't resolve the debate. It's a 6 and a 9 between Durban, Gqeberha, and Cape Town, who was the first branch to be formed. And I am seeing a 9. It was Gqeberha. There is somebody who is seeing a 6, and they may say whatever they do. But then we have the AGM, which is the first AGM of BMF, which is national under the leadership of George. Then we're faced with the issue, and we may look at the issue and say it's tiny. For us who came out of Joburg, we say, what shall BMF do to make a definitive, unquestionable statement that it is now a national structure? And of course, we had an agenda. And our agenda was we wanted to have a president of BMF outside Gauteng. And the Johannesburg people say, you are the Johnny-come-latelys, and you have just joined BMF. You don't understand anything about BMF. How the hell do you think you can lead BMF? And now George, as the president, had to mediate those. And as he was doing that, he says, Johannesburg people, let me tell you how right you are. You are right for these and these and these and these and these reasons. And he gets a standing ovation. And for us, we look at it and we say, do we belong here? And no sooner he gets a standing ovation, he says, guys, you who come from the coast, because if you look at those, they are in the coast. Let me tell you why you are right. He gives us that and that and that and that and that. He gets a small standing ovation because there are few of us, but he gets a standing ovation. Now we look at it and we say, 2 standing ovations, we are looking for a decision because it is. Well, we presented the candidates, and Don Mkhwanazi, who was in Durban at that stage, became the president. It was through the facilitation of George. Had it not been for George, the skill, my view, which is hard to get, hard to acquire, hard to utilize. At BMFI, we are faced with situations like this. I think at BMF, we are faced with situations like this. Is it a 6 or is it a 9? And therefore, you need somebody who is going to be practical and say, it is both. And therefore, 6, you have your 6. 9, you have your 9. Mr. George Negota, my role model. Why do South Africa need servant leadership? You know, we are a young country, ably led by Madiba, and we become the global sensation under Madiba. But when we look back,
and we look at ourselves, we are now questioning, are we really free? Are we really free? If you say yes, we are free, free to be what? Free to be poor, free to be given poor education, free to be afraid as you go home, you say, who may hijack me? Free for what? I don't want to cover unemployment much. The statistics I got, it was 64.1 extended for the youth. And Duma Kubule, who is a very difficult economist, he says, and I think he calls it rightly, it is a national disgrace. Hardly 30 years after Madiba gave us freedom, are those 64% who are unemployed really free? You produce them from the university and you say, here is a wonderful certificate, Gaude Amus, and they get excited about it. And then they go into the wilderness to be unemployed. And I think it's one of the few countries you have which has the organization of the unemployed graduate and the diplomates. It's an organization, and when you look at the numbers, they look at the numbers being in hundreds of thousands. The organization of the unemployed graduates is bigger in numbers than BMF. Are we free? Look at inequality. Inequality, my understanding, they say people who live in opulence, they are 10% of the population. I'm not so sure what opulence is, but let's use opulence in whatever way you think. This hotel is opulent. I was supposed to be in the guest house next door, and then I was told I've been upgraded. And you know, I came here with a spring in my step, because for me, I wanted to partake in the opulence. And then we have the middle class. This is where some of us belong. And even though we may be on the lower part of the middle class, but even the scrolls, we get to the middle class. And then we have poverty, 55%. 55%. And the UCT, I'm sorry to quote UCT in Limpopo, but it's them who said, you know what? It's a ticking time bomb. And I'm going to comment later on about this. I said we are going to be talking about the same thing. They say 57 people are murdered every day. And we have the third highest crime rate in the world. We like to be best in many things. Number third highest in crime rate, 57 people. You know what 57 people means, among others? It says before the end of this session, maybe 2 or 3 people will have been murdered. But it happens every day. And for us, we need to really reflect. Femicide, this is why I said, well, we may say doxology and go home. They say 12.5 cases of femicide per 100,000 population. Again, they say 4th highest of female violent death rates in the world. Men and boys, can we be proud that people who are our mothers, who gave birth to us, people who gave us milk which sustained us, we then turn around and ensure that they are harassed. And as Esetu was taking us through the statistics, and I struggled when she quoted lustful looks. And I said, yeah, lustful looks. How does that look feel? Because maybe I may look at somebody, Tikoti, as I looked at Tikoti and I said, Tikoti, you know, actually, you need to insure your legs. Maybe I have committed a crime. And she said, oh, like Tina Turner. And I said, well, Tina Turner. And at some stage, though, we struggle, Deputy President, is to say, how do we compliment the ladies as innocently as possible? And at some stage, it's almost like, shut up, look away, and don't say anything. But the femicide is a problem and a lot of associated issues. Women are the majority of the population of South Africa, and therefore the majority is harassed. Suicides. I learn successful suicides are 23 every single day. And therefore, every single hour, there's somebody who commits successfully. And I looked at these statistics again and I said, why did they say successfully? However, I'm quoting you statistics. Whereas there are 20 others who attempt and fail. And then we look at it and we say, this is the country which we have. And corruption, I looked at the corruption, and in terms of corruption standards, actually, you look at it and they are reported in really so many confusing matters. I just thought you need to say, you know what? We are ranked amongst the most corrupt countries in the world. Why is it important? It's important because you can quote so many other statistics. You say, you look at the value of our rand, it is down. You look at how much we pay for petrol, as was quoted, it is high. And somebody makes a comparison and he says, you know, in Zambia and Malawi, their petrol is costing 8 rand per liter, but they get it from us. And they were really doing that lamentation. And you look at our investment rate, we are already in the junk status. And we could look at that and you say, if that is the case, what kind of leadership do we need? And let me talk about this issue of saying it came from my home province, even though it's no longer my home. I don't know whether I left KwaZulu-Natal because it is violent, but my home now is the Eastern Cape. And so at KwaZulu-Natal, I go and meet some people I'm acquainted with. But when you look at it, you need to be saying, is it not possibly that it was a warning shot? Especially when you realize the failure of the police. Police were not able to fix the issue. The army were in the barracks. People were on their own. And then you start looking at it and say, is it probably not the case that why I think about 2,700 of the high income earners and high taxpayers are emigrating every year, 2,700. And you start looking at it and say, since we are already a welfare state, you have about 17 or 18 million people who are living on social grants. Where do they come from? They come from people who pay taxes. For us, we are in trouble. Let me deal with George being my role model. I look at the role model as a person, and I say the issue is personal and individual. Why a role model? Your role model may be different from mine, but mine is, I look at a person who is a paragon of virtues. And therefore, a person who finds that he is an embodiment of what I consider praiseworthy and deserving to be emulated. I'm going to cover issues, and I know that the program director told us that an hour and a half we're done and we go, and I know that there's still a speaker or 2 or 3 who come after me. The Rubik's Cube, and I don't believe these numbers. However, I got it on Google. If you want to Google, you can Google whether Google is correct or not. They say Google, in terms of the Rubik's Cube, you can have 43 quintillion combinations. And I look at a human being and say, it's like a Rubik's Cube. And I'm not going to bore you with 43 quintillion combinations because I don't know them. And I'm going to just cover a few. And therefore, allow me to just say the attributes that made George Negota a servant leader and therefore my role model. I have covered the issue which I have. But I believe at the very core, a servant leader should have the following attributes which are sadly lacking in our leaders today. Sadly lacking, they are very few. One, they need to have a deep and an unfailing love of their people. For me, I don't know how you feel, but right from Mahlambandlovu to the provincial leadership, to the municipal leadership, I don't feel loved. I don't feel loved when the dustbin, which I got out at the right time, is not collected, and I have got to pray for it to be collected. And I pay for it to be collected. I need to pray for it to be collected. I don't feel loved. You may feel loved. I think servant leadership has got to be enduring respect for the people, enduring. What do people do when they go to a party in Gauteng? They say, we are going to buy chicken here and it's going to be bought out to get votes. And they are not going to spend more than 300 rand. Do they really respect me as a voter? Let me make a confession which maybe Glenn Mashinini may be angry with. I'm one of the people who didn't vote. And I'm not proud of it, but I didn't vote because I looked and I looked and I looked and I said, am I going to flip the coin like one of the municipality had to flip the coin to choose the mayor? And it was, maybe my no vote is going to be a serious vote. When we struggled to get a vote, and you may be angry with me, I would say I understand. I'm angry with myself. I'm angry about our misleaders who are not leading us, who decide when it is time they are going to be, we apologize, we are going to fix it. I have had many apologies. I am tired of apologies. I want service delivery. If when I don't get it at some stage, please just don't flatter me and give me the empty promises, empty apologies. A sense of being called to serve. George Negota had a sense in him. It was part of his DNA of say, I'm being called to serve through BMF. And I know that George Negota had many roles. I can't talk about George Negota as a husband. I was not his wife. I can't talk about him as a brother. I wasn't his brother. I can't talk about him as a friend. I can talk about him as a leader because he was my leader. And for him, he had a calling of serving with honor, with integrity, with dignity. Why do we need servant leaders rather than the hyenas? As Upani Mtomboti loves to say this, as he writes on the Sunday Times. He says you have a fowl run and it has chicken, then you hire a hyena to guard them. When the chicken disappear, you wonder, stupid you, it is the hyena that you hired. And for us, when we elect the hyenas, we give them our money, and then when money gets abused, we get worried and we wonder what happened. So who is better? Me who voted for no hyena, who voted for a hyena? We need to really reflect. And when George was visiting the areas I have mentioned in particular, because those I know because I have relationship with them, you could engage with somebody who almost had an evangelical zeal, who says, I need to share this with you. As we know the evangelical calling, he says, go. And he went. George Negota, I know in my role model. He had humility, honesty. And may I quote Dr. Roel Koza as well, says, George's simple elegance and down-to-earth sincerity, he made him approachable across the board. There were taxi drivers who had confidence in George. He was an advisor to the ministry at a provincial, at a national level of transport. And he engaged with them to say, we know, run your taxi as a business, understand the turnover, the profit, and all the other issues, and handle them well. He was approachable, even by dwarfs like me. George Negota. I have spoken about exemplary diligence, was working hard. And when he was traveling around, BMF did not have the money it had, DP. BMF now has money, you can travel, and I'm sure, and it can pay. I think I'm going to do it, and I'm going to say, DP has got to be promoted. You know, though, I'm sure on many visits, he paid from his own pocket to build this BMF, which we are proud of, which we are struggling sometimes to support. And I want to say to the family, in totality, for the moments that he stole from you to give to BMF, it was an investment. Had he not taken that time, we probably may have not standing here. I mean, I am a product of George. Had it not been for George, the first leadership position I occupied was at BMF. It was because of George. And therefore, for me, I am a disciple who I really would want to say I can go to the end of the world as well to say, shout in his honor. My system, sometimes it freezes, and when it does, I'm not so sure what I may need to do. Help me, whomsoever. Oh. Would you kindly help me? Oh, now it jumps to closing remarks. He had persistence. He had persistence because at some stage, he was finding people saying, Black Management Forum. And why Black? We're struggling. Some other people with Black say, have a different name, Business Management Forum, and that kind of thing. But he was persistent. And let me just cover the last attribute of self-confidence. You know, you can never, I want to say again, you can never be a servant leader if you don't have self-confidence. Can never be a servant leader if your ego is too small. And sometimes people say the ego is too big. No, it is too small. Program director, there used to be a movie which said, Honey, I Shrunk the Kid. When you feel like you are the kid who has been shrunk and therefore people are going to be all over you, you can't. But you can be a servant leader when you have confidence. You have conviction of your own beliefs. That's why the good Lord said, you know what, give me your feet, let me wash them. Because he had the confidence of saying, he who is the greatest should be the servant. And for us, look at your leaders. Some of you, if I were to really say, I don't have it, but if I were to say, here is money, well, I have a bit, I carry money because I don't have money. And so that when the card bounces, they'll pay. If I were to say, here is the money, do you know your counselor personally? And I want to say to you, less than half of us here, we know our counselors. And why don't we know them? Because as soon as they get elected, they go hiding. They're afraid of us. Allow me, Program Director, to move towards closure because it is important that we do so. And I'm going to make 4 points, but they are personal. They are personal because I am pleading that for us, we do things which are personal. Sometimes actually we struggle as human beings because we have role models and we talk more about the role models when they are late rather than they are alive. There's a role model I have, Mr. Saki Machozom, Umdungwa, who you can engage in the argument, however short or long. He's going to say, now we have settled the argument, then what shall we do? Because the servant leader does things. You spoke about how we talk. We have the webinars, we have the conferences and that kind of thing. Talk, talk, talk. And the Afrikaners say, talk is cheap, but it is the rand which buys you a bottle of brandy. For me, therefore, as I personalize it, as I close, what shall I do? And I think in honor of George Negota's evangelical spirit, I want to say by the 31st of December, I want to do this. And they are small things. And maybe let me just cover that issue because somebody wrote something and you can find it in the book, I think, 7 Habits of Highly Effective People. And he said, sometimes when I consider what tremendous consequences come from little things, I'm convinced that there are no little things. Sometimes we look at things and we say little. So here are my 4 little things. And I decided, let me keep them to 4 because once I go beyond the 4, I may struggle. 1, I want to double the number of boys to men sessions that I run. I run boys to men session where I look at it and say, boys, at somewhere about 14 to 18, let's talk about what it means to be a man. What it means to a man, and I believe us as fathers, whether father biologically or father because of our age, if we spoke to our boys well enough, thoroughly enough, we would find that we create a culture when they are young, where they are going to respect the ladies, their sisters, respect their aunts and their mothers. You may say to me, why are you not focusing on men? And I would say, when it is already too old and it is too dry, you try to bend it, it breaks. And therefore it becomes a waste of time. I would rather deal with young boys and say, I want to double those sessions which I have. And I don't publish them, and I deal with the societies and the communities where I live. And I want to double the number of the youth and women that I mentor and coach. Just only double. And here is the issue about mentoring and coaching. It is so lovely when a person you have mentored or coached, they get successful. It is between the two of you know that you have been mentored and coaching that person rather than go into the mountaintop and shout. But also it becomes nice when a person says, you know what? I am what I am because of that person, because it gives you a spring in our step. Do we invest enough time as men to coach the young, to support the women? I want to double my individual and one-to-one engagement with business people, because we may get a sense, you may say, my tone may be looking at political leadership, business leadership. I was listening to Professor Bonang Mohale yesterday, and he was covering how difficult it is in the boardroom. You read Nolita Fagude's book on boardroom dancing, you understand how difficult it is in the boardroom, where you have an idea which you have, which is owned by the majority, but you are the minority in the boardroom. And therefore, your majority idea, once you are a minority at that area, it becomes difficult. And therefore, you need to engage in that boardroom dancing, which you need to do, and you do it with elegance and be successful. With politicians, adopting them to say, they have taken the position and they let them adopt the position of being servant leaders. And lastly, and I'm going to manage this well because it is specific. Deputy President, I want to sponsor 10 new BMF members per province. But I would love that at least of them, 50% should be women, at least 50% of them youth, because thereby we will be able to bring this organization where it should be. Thank you. Thank you very much. But then may I look at you as Matiba used to do? And I love this one. Matiba used to say there are 3 types of people. As we know, those who make things happen, those who watch things happen, and those who wonder what the hell happened. And then Matiba, though, twisted the story a bit. And he says, those who are born quietly, they live quietly, they die quietly. You can't even identify their graves. And cattle graze in their graves because of the insignificant life that they lived. And the second group is the people who are born quietly, but then they do evil deeds. The evil deeds that they do are so bad that their funerals are well attended. Well attended not by the mourners, but people who want to see that this person is surely dead. And he says, you know, even the grave diggers, they dig so diligently at 10 feet under, they get stopped. Please, you stop. Because they want to say once this person is buried, they should not rise, even in the second rising, as it were. Or and then he says, then there's a third kind of people. They are born quietly. They live quietly. And the deeds that they do are so great that when people attend their funerals, you find them smiling with joy because they have come to celebrate the life of the deceased. And in a Madiba style, he stops and he says, oh, these three, who are you? In a similar manner, may I ask you to say, I'm going to do these very little things. When you go out here and you say, I knew about George Negota, probably I knew very little. I am a member of BMF because of George Negota. What then shall you do to support his evangelical spirit? Thank you. I wish you well.
No, thank you for that. It really did deserve a standing ovation. Thank you so very much for that. I think, you know, the point of servant leadership, when you talked about that, it's really about leaders who love their followers and to what extent they love their followers. I think, you know, as people who desire to a certain extent to be loved, even at a leadership level, we understand when love is not being served, we know that no, something is just not right here. And thank you so very much for that. I think I just have a few pointers that I can help you the next time you have your boys to men sessions. What is that point that was raised about the looks that are given in the that are given to women? There's a term you used, lustful looks. I think you need clarity, and I'm going to provide clarity. Let me educate you a little bit so that the next time you go to the boys to men sessions, you can help the younger boys that are coming up, because there seems to be a bit of a confusion. What is a lustful look? If I'm giving someone a compliment and saying, killer look, killer legs, you know, and it looks innocent, you know, and you said something, and you said, sir, we're going to get to a point where we won't give these compliments, we will just look away. I think that is, there's an error there, because compliments are needed. I think as human beings, we want compliments. But I think if we were to really be honest, and you must tell this to your young men, if we were to really be honest, when a lustful look is given, the giver knows. They know very well. Because if I was to look at any woman right now and say, you look beautiful, and she says, thank you, but you remain and say, yes. And then you look them up and down, and then you stop at your favorite place, and then you park there, and you say, yeah, guys are lucky. Some guys are lucky. Already you can tell the poor lady is uncomfortable. You know, she's trying to maybe cover up or say, but you don't stop. You continue looking and say, yeah, Corey, when you left home, did anyone tell you beautiful? You're persistent. So the giver of the lustful look knows that they've crossed the line. It's a very thin line. And once you cross it, you are aware that you've crossed it. So please relay this message to the boys to men, young men. Thank you so much. That the giver always knows. Thank you so very much for that. We are moving to the next day. Came through and they talked about what a good man the late George was. But, you know, it is your family that knows you. Because maybe here this evening, looking beautiful, smelling nice, saying the right words to each other. But if we bring a family member here, your closest one, they are the ones that know you, because you lose your temper with them, you've been angry, you've done all sorts of things. So that, because when you get at home, you take off the mask, and even some of the great things that we think you are great, it is your family members, those that are close to you, that will tell us that, yeah, your problem, you think you know this person, let us tell you. So the next part is word that we are getting to. I'd like to call to the front, Harold Negota, to come and just the word for the family. As they tell us what we already know, but I'm sure they'll be able to throw in even some of the, the things that we did not really know, some of the nice gems in there for us to hear from. So please, a round of applause as welcome Negota to the front.
Ndi madekwana. Hi. Thank you, Program Director, for giving me this opportunity to come and say a word, if or otherwise. During this third annual memorial lecture of my late brother, George Negota. May all the stakeholders here who participated in this event be seen as the comrades who have been left behind with the spirit of George Negota. With the word of appreciation, I would like to say this. I would like to say, on behalf of the Negota family, I highly appreciated the organizers of this memorial lecture. It is obvious that if it was not BMF efforts, this day would not have been celebrated the way it should be. Program Director, the spread of COVID-19 and its impact did not stop you to organize this function or this event. Here, hence we are. Words about George. Having heard much and positive attributes about George, what can one say in response that would suit this occasion? Program Director, allow me to take you back to George's memorial service organized by UBMF at Rema Church, Randburg, on 10 May 2017. The speakers who took the podium on that day echoed the good work George did for this country. And ended by saying, open quote, George, your good work will forever be remembered. Here we are today. I see his name is still roaming our minds. His trail of footsteps is still alive. Mostly because of you, Black Management Forum. The George Negota Litigation Fund bears a testimony. You are right, Mr. Sibiya. George's leadership skill was easily identified as his early stage or early age, and was exposed to many during his primary school learning going forward. Before I jump to conclusion, I would like to remind BMF to revive the idea of rotating this memorial lecture to our local universities around the Limpopo province for the benefit of our young business entrepreneurs, as well as the upcoming young politicians. At least tonight we have been joined by the Limpopo University. In conclusion, the Negota family is 100% satisfied in the manner Black Management Forum has conducted this memorial lecture in respect of our brother, our father, our mentor, our great leader. We feel proud as a family about what transpired this evening. We are going to share tonight's event with the family members at home. May his soul once more rest in peace. Thank you.
A round of applause, please. I wanted to make sure that I don't spoil it before he speaks. University of Limpopo, the question is, what would George Negota need to have been done, to deserve an honorary PhD? Because when you look at his contribution, it's better than the thesis and dissertation some people have written and have received the PhD. And would you want to be embarrassed by a university from outside the province, which honors him, gives him a PhD posthumously, and then thereafter you look at it and you say, by the way, the pastor is not honored, or the prophet is not honored in his own province? Mine, I would really be saying, please go back, because it tends to be motivated by the professors to the structures of the university. And when it does, you keep it secret to the family until the structure appropriately approves it, and then you invite a person. He did an excellent job in 1985 and 1986. If I were to use just my fingers, 96, 2006, 2016, that is 30, 2017, 2018, 2019, 2020, 2021, 35 years, no honor. Thank you.
Thank you so much. No, we did say that a lot of questions are going to be asked this evening. And by the time we leave this evening, we'll be introspecting, we'll be reflecting, and I hope that the questions that are asked, they are not just flying around in the room, but they are landing in the laps where they need to land. They are landing in the hearts where they need to land. Because when they land in the right place, then those questions will prompt the person who feels the weight of the questions into action, and then we'll see a different outcome. So, Amanda, thank you so much for those wonderful words. Let me take this time as well to just really honor and thank Old Mutual as a sponsor. Committing support now for the lecture, the third year in a row. So please, a round of applause for such a commitment. It is a big commitment, really. And we thank Deborah Kubu, who is the Group Stakeholder Relations Manager from Old Mutual. Thank you so very much. A round of applause once again. We really are grateful that Old Mutual continues to come through and be consistent in the support, because it's not easy to garner support, especially during these times. You know, people choose to focus their efforts, their financial efforts elsewhere. So when you have a sponsor that keeps on coming back, it means they see the value. So we are grateful for that. I'd like to call to the front, Thulam Sindo Rapo, to the BMF Limpopo Deputy Chairperson for vote of thanks. Round of applause, please.
Thank you very much, Program Director Zodala. That's the word that I heard tonight. But I do not want to say Zodala. I want to say all of us, I'm not sure as to whether the former president hears or understands what I'm saying. It's Limpopo here, Bagit. Good people, I am so delighted. I have learned a lot. I thought I was just coming to a memorial lecture, and I found myself in a room where I can qualify to have a PhD. If University of Limpopo can say, write us something here, 100 out of 100, I'm gonna make 150 out of 100 like it. I have always known about a servant leader, but I think I did not know much, that it is these simple things that we don't question that makes us valuable people. I feel loved by all of you. Ladies and gentlemen, a very good evening to all of you. It gives me an immense pleasure to deliver the vote of thanks. I actually feel honored and grateful. It is not each and everyone who gets the opportunity to do a vote of thanks. You are picked for something which people takes you for. The University of Limpopo, thank you very much for honoring the invitation. Vaga Negota Rukolebo Gamanda. You always honor the invitation. All the participants here, thank you very much. The participants out there, we thank you. The leadership of Limpopo BMF, the provincial one, the branch, thank you very much. And I would like to thank our chief guest, Ntate Sibiya, who honored this function with his inspirational thoughts. We learned a lot, Baba. We will emulate your teachings. We will emulate your teachings. We will emulate your teachings. Thank you very much. Once more, I feel loved by this audience in here. I feel loved by virtue of having the chief guest telling us that we must be sure that we are loved. We mustn't ask questions like, am I loved? It must be a given. We must be loved. We must be served with humility. We mustn't demand that. We must stand up as members of BMF and make sure that things are done correctly. Mtate Sibiya, I want to pose a few questions. Why is it that we are having BMF and our country is in the state? Limpopo, who is going to fix our country? To all of us, why is it that we hate ourselves so much? Why are we not standing up and ensure that we correct the wrongs? Why is it that a boy child is so angry? Or maybe let me say, why is it that we are so angry as a nation? What is it that was not done to make us happy today? If we are members of BMF, if participants here loves BMF, oh, nah, together we will hold each other kamatsoro and make sure that we fix this country. It can be. And I want to take this opportunity and say to you, we are all servants of the people. We owe it to them. Let's rise up and make sure that we fix our country. No one is going to fix our country. We are not going to deploy some strategies from elsewhere. This is our country. Let's talk to the issues and make sure that everything is intact. Thank you very much.
Thank you so very much. And this brings us to the end of our program. I told you in 1 hour and 30 minutes, we're going to be done. And true to word, we have come to the end of the program. We'll just be giving an announcement of how there's going to be a serving of dinner. So thank you once again for being a great audience. Thank you for being attentive. And thank you also for those that are attending the session via Zoom for having stuck through and made sure that they stay through the whole session. And I wish that you would remain behind. And once we make that announcement for dinner, that you would just mingle, meet up, catch up, have dinner, and then we'll disperse to our homes. I really appreciate you for being attentive and for participating. Thank you to everyone for taking part. My name is Mpoma Shita, and I appreciate you. Thank you.
And one purpose. Because how we choose to invest today will impact our world and create meaningful returns tomorrow. Invest for a future that matters with Africa's most responsible investor.